there can be qualified persons and they can be saved because their lives is just life-supporting ambulance. But the lives should be saved at the hospitals where they are going to. So if there are no equipment, there are no medicine at those life-saving hospitals, the support will just end and the person will die. So therefore we need to get money and pump into those hospitals and make sure that our referral hospitals are there, well equipped. This is what is lacking, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member for Central Badibu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the work before us is not a difficult task. We must be ready to sacrifice some budget items in order to have a better supplementary budget. Honorable Speaker, as alluded by Honorable Member of Serekunda West, all the items in this budget are very important, but we must be ready to prioritize. Because if you look at the introduction made by the Honorable Minister, the main objective of the bill is to provide additional public services, including national security, election-related matters, infrastructure, pandemic, and disaster-related services, as well as commitments to international financial institutions. Honorable Speaker, the pandemic is a great concern. North Bank region of the Gambia is highly heated by windstorm. Families are homeless. They are in serious food insecurity. Schools are, the roof has been blown off, both Arabic schools and English schools. Health facilities are totally destroyed as I'm speaking. So if priority should be given to those people, for example, Nauler Health Facility, which the minister visited with me, they don't need ambulance as I'm speaking to you. What they need now is structure. Because the poor structure that they had, the roof has been blown up by wind. Even women, when they go for clinic, they don't have a place to sit. So I think if proper need assessment is done, we will invest into areas that are going to be very useful as far as this time is concerned. I'm not saying that some of the communities in the Gambia, they don't need ambulances. I'm not saying that. But strategy could be made where we have existing ambulances. For the meantime, they can be supportive to other communities. So the whole lot of money that we have for ambulances, we can slice it down so that we can invest it into other areas. Honorable Speaker, women's life matters. How many women died in labor? We have been talking about that. Blood is a problem in our health facilities. Dialysis machines are not available. Even if they are available, they are not sufficient. COVID-19 is at the corner. It's still existing with us. So we must do justice to this document. We must prioritize. We are not saying that we throw this document away, but let's cut and paste. The health committee members are here. We told the length and breadth of this country. We saw the condition of these health facilities. And I believe the Honorable Minister himself went around the whole country and saw the condition of some of the existing health facilities. So why don't we think of improving those facilities? Because once we have the ambulances in those communities, the ambulances, their last destination is where? Health facilities. If they go there, if the right materials are not available, it's going to be useless. You take one step, 10 steps forward, 20 step backward. So we must really study the situation. My appeal to the Honorable Minister is, before we go down, try and think over. Look at your budget properly. Health facilities or major health centers that need these ambulances, please identify them, we allocate. But other areas that don't need this, please let us try and identify their problems and provide them. You went to my area. For the people of Daruri one, I have seen ambulances here, fine. It's a life-supporting ambulance, but they have their own community ambulance. But the labor ward is in a critical condition. They reported to you. It's 1 year now. I believe now if we have funds here, we need to look at those issues. So that's why I'm saying if consultation was done and need assessment was properly done, for me, my constituency, I will go for structural adjustment than this life-saving ambulance. Because the one in Salikenye and Jabokunda can support other communities. We can strategize. But for the meantime, we need to look at things that are pressing issues. Honorable Speaker, coming to the OIC, yes. Somebody made mention that whether OIC will take place or not. Yes, whether the timing is right or it's not right, but we expected that Gambia has an opportunity to host it. But our concern here is, when are you going to start demolition of structures if this compensation is given? When are we going to start? Because we allocated 10 million during the budget session. We stood here and said it's small, let's make good allocation. But it was not possible. Now again we are coming with this. So are we sure that demolition will take place, compensation will take place? Are we sure of that? I want the Honorable Minister to tell us. Honorable Minister, coming to Kalen Bush Town, if my memory could serve me very well, that road was constructed out of the fund from Lamenkoto Pasamas. Now, if we still owe areas, I don't know how those areas came in. And I could also remember during the budget session, we made allocations for areas. And Bush Town, Kalen was also mentioned. So can you please enlighten the House, what are these areas about? And the other issue is about the scholarships. Honorable Speaker, when it comes to scholarship, I want us to put on our gender lens. We know that there are a lot of girls or women who are interested to go to UTG, University of the Gambia. And when it comes to scholarship, last time I stood here and I said, affirmative action must be taken. But the minister said in academia, you have to look at credentials and you have to look at qualifications, fine. But what I'm saying is, if we should have given 60 scholarship, but at least 40 or 35 should be given to women. These are, this is what we call affirmative action, because we need to support our young girls, to have the education that they want. So I believe the allocation that we are going to make today, most of the members are with the view that we are going to give this 100 million, which I'm 100% in support of that. But I want you to go further to give more scholarship to women than men, or more female than male. Because the reason is we have more girls enrolled in our school system. If you could remember, during the former government, there was a system called compulsory free education for girls. So that motivated a lot of parents to send their girl child to school. Some of them now are in the colleges and ready to go to the universities. So if they don't have the scholarship to read, they will be idle in the street. Up to now, they are calling MPs, and we don't have funds to support them. How many scholarship applications I have on my desk is too much, more than 10. Do you understand? So we must make sure that we help these vulnerable women to get the highest level of education. Honorable Speaker, coming to IEC, I don't think there is need for us to quarrel here over this IEC issue. In the morning, Honorable Jarrah made mention of it. When we reach to the committee stage, let's put it there. If IEC don't put it there, or we ask the minister, did IEC ever submit a budget to you on diaspora voting or registration? I mean, whether IEC wants, whether they have done it. We need to know. If you have the all submission, bring it for us. We need to put it here. This is a concern. There are people who belongs to this country. They are contributing to the GDP of this nation, so they need to vote. So, and if we don't take action as parliament, we will be blamed. Of course, we have an opportunity to address the situation. That's where we are right now. So the minister must explain to us the whole situation surrounding this diaspora voting. Then parliament can make a decision. You have been boasting and saying that, you can do, there's nothing that parliament can do. But diaspora voting is here. So at the end of the day, if you don't do something, they will say then that slogan doesn't work again. Honorable Speaker, coming to revising courts. These courts are very necessary and they are very important to our democracy. But the budget line for it, I want the minister to revisit the budget line, focus more on the logistics, like how they are going to conduct the court cases. But as far as mobility is concerned, saying that they join with their clients the same vehicle, I think that's hyperbole. That has been over exaggerated, because these magistrate courts, they have been in existence for time immemorial, and they have been having cases. So renovating those places at this material time will not help us. Some of the places are not owned by government. So why not we wait until we have our annual budget session, we do more allocation for them. Let the Ministry of Land identify a land for all the regions, so that these magistrate courts will be well built, well furnished, so that the magistrate judges can do their court in a manner that they will wish. But at this crucial moment, I don't think there is a need for it. Honorable Speaker, coming to the vehicles for the regional governors, yes, or the deputy governors. Honorable Speaker, North Bank, I will speak for North Bank. When the disaster occurred, I went to the community and asked them whether the governor came, but it was after 1 week the governor had an opportunity to go. I find out what was the issue. The issue was vehicle. The governor is not having a vehicle as I'm speaking to you. Talk less of the deputy governor. I think the minister can look at those regions that are badly in need of vehicle. We allocate for them. But those that have existed to do so. But we can also prioritize. So this is a concern that I have to raise to you, and you have to understand, even if you are going to reject North Bank, accept that one. Honorable Speaker, coming to defense. Yes, yesterday, the day before yesterday, we talked about our men in uniform going for peacekeeping, and they need a budget of $1.16 million. Honorable Speaker, yes, it's very important for our men to go for peacekeeping, because they bring back something home, and the economy also will also grow. But Honorable Speaker, at this material time, I think Gambia need to focus on his own internal security than external missions. The simple reason is that ECOMIC is here for a mission, and they must go. If ECOMIC leave, what is happening to our men in uniform? Are we preparing them? If you patrol along the border lines, we have been experiencing a lot of attacks from the neighboring countries. So if those men are not well fortified, they are not well resourced, and we want to put all the money in buying equipment for peacekeeping, it will not tell well. I think we need to focus on our internal restructuring. And I have a question for the Honorable Minister. Honorable Speaker, the security sector reform, that was an opportunity for us to build up our security sector. What has happened to that? We need to be informed. So we cannot just be making decisions, at the end of the day, we don't know where we are moving to. So the patrol teams that are here, some of them, they don't have vehicles. Military, there are new military, barracks that are created in North Bank region, Kerepat and others. They have only one vehicle. Do they have enough personnel to do the function that they want to do? So, and in Africa now, we must be thinking of silencing gun. We cannot be investing into war. I'm not supporting that. Peacekeeping, when people are crying, when people are dying, the money that you make out of that, you want to build up your economy. I'm not in for that. Honorable Speaker, coming to coming to the families that are affected with disaster, yes, we will thank the President. Honorable member stood here and said the government gave 2 million. It was the President who gave the 2 million from his pocket. It was not the government. The package of the government is on the way. I don't know whether they are right away there or not. But what we are saying is this Parliament must be ready with the Minister of Finance to have fund for emergency situations. Because you don't expect people to be putting their hand in their pocket when disaster happens. So we need quick response when there is emergency. And somebody made mention of it. The rainfall pattern in the Gambia is unpredictable. It's possible we are going to have low rainfall this year. And we are not expecting bumper harvest. So if that happens, where will we be as a country? So I think we need to put more money for that emergency situations. In case it happens, the Ministry of Finance can have an opportunity to release the fund quickly to the disaster victims. So I think those are areas that we need to really look at when we go to the committee stage to ensure that we make more allocation for those emergencies. It happens in CRR, flood, there was a flash flood. Do you understand? North Bank region, windstorm. Who knows the other region that's going to be affected? So we need to be prepared. Now for GRTS, yes, indeed, time has come for them to move. But honorable nominated member made mention of something that is very key. We will definitely allocate, but we want you to be very fair in your coverage. Yes, 2 days ago, the minister made mention of that. They want to make sure that they give equal access to political parties. If you do that, that's going to be history. Because for the past years, and now, what we're seeing is you covered only the president's activities. Because I had a program, it was a party program. I took the invitation letter by myself, but it was not honored. We have all those evidences. But where we are right now, we are at remedying the situation so that those past will not be repeated in our democracy. We want to give equal opportunity to people. Political parties must be seen and heard so that at the end of the day, Gambians can make decisions that are going to be very helpful to our democracy. But if people are not being given opportunity, they are denied access to information, you are killing them. So I think if all the problems cannot be solved by the supplementary budget, I think you need to liaise with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that the next budget coming, we have a holistic approach towards GRTS, revamping it, and make so that the people of Badibu, Sali, Kenya, or the people of URR can benefit. They can have an access towards JRTS. Honorable Speaker, coming to sources of funding, yes, 1.5 billion from British Petroleum, fine from British Petroleum, termination of contract. Honorable Speaker, we need to be well clear with this amount of money, whether it's readily available or it's going to be paid by piecemeal, or it's already paid into the account. I want the Honorable Minister to throw more light into that. Honorable Speaker, I thank everybody for the kind attention given, and I believe when we reach to the committee stage, we will do give and take. We will really support areas that are really needed and try to self-orders. Maybe when the annual budget comes, we can put them out. So thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member for Woolly East.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the supplementary budget includes a grant of 338 million dollars. It's a grant. It's removed. And a non-tax revenue of 1.7 billion, which is a penalty charge incurred by BP for withdrawing their lancing. Honorable Speaker, the amount appears big, but for me it's also a worry that BP is withdrawing. Hello? Sorry.
Honorable Speaker, I want to observe the member. Honorable member, I don't know whether we are having different documents. You did okay, you're having different documents. So the document before us, officially given to us, I think that's the document that we are considering.
Tell him the figures that you are looking at.
Yes. The 1.7 is withdrawn. It's 1.5. Yes, despite the 1.5, this is a big amount. But what I am saying is that BP is withdrawing their lancing. My understanding is that BP is given a lancing to operate, but they are withdrawing the lancing. And because of that, they are penalized. And they paid this 1.5 billion. So my concern now is, what is the implication of that? Because our desire would be for BP to continue exploration. But then if they withdraw the lancing, what does that mean? That means that they have withdrawn from the country. that is the case, that is not good for us. So it's not something that we should celebrate. That's what I mean. Also, Honorable Speaker, in the detailed revenue estimate of 2021, Code 29, there is this capital grants from foreign governments, where we were expected to receive 2.4 and 6.3. I believe it's billion. So my question is whether, how far have we succeeded in at least receiving some of that? Whether those anticipated grants were forthcoming, whether they were captured as income. So, those two grants, for example, whether those two grants in the SAP were anticipated by the budget. If yes, have we not already earmarked them for expenditure? They were in the budget as revenue. Honorable Speaker, what we are looking for is value for money in this supplementary budget. And we are also interested in the suitability of the means to achieve the ends. So in that case, there is a lot of supervision that we have to do to ensure that we have this value for money. Limited resources. And because of that, we must make every effort to ensure that these limited resources are distributed to the various units or departments, as we call them. And for this supplementary budget, we are looking for unexpected items that were not foreseen during the appropriation period. And these unexpected items, of course, must be appropriated, given priority. So it's just about unknown or uncertain items that we should be focused on when we are deciding this budget. So the question is whether all these items that are given to us are unexpected or uncertain items. Is that the case? For example, the vehicles for the deputy governors, were they uncertain by the time we were working on the appropriation? Were they unexpected? If they are not, then they should be able to wait for the next appropriation, in my opinion. Honorable Speaker, I was looking at the various items, and I definitely appreciated the equipments that the Army is requesting to purchase. We've discussed this lengthily, and these are peacekeeping operations where we are going to spend only 10%. The amount there is only 10% of what is required. And once they are deployed, then the income will continue to pay the rest. and continue to benefit the country and continue to give income to our personnel. So this is investment. And if you look at all the items, it looks like this is the only major investment in the supplementary. So I believe it is important that we ensure that we don't lose this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, the request made by the health is also very important, and it will definitely impact on the lives of the rural people. You will not appreciate that until you visit Makamasire. It's meant for hard-to-reach communities. I don't know why people who are in the city are also clamoring for things that are meant for rural areas, hard-to-reach areas. That is the objective. It's mentioned here. It's for hard-to-reach areas. So it's not for every other area. However, what I did not see in the request, or I'm not so aware what efforts they are making, is the rehabilitation of the structures. I could remember we were talking about rehabilitation of the structures when 500 million was given to them, when COVID was pronounced in the early phase. What happened? As far as I'm concerned, I've not seen any rehabilitation in my area. And we were very concerned also that those major health centers that are pronounced major health centers should be given the due. They should not just be called major health centers when they don't have the facilities that will ensure that they are major health centers. For example, simple minor operations should be able to be conducted in those health centers. But they are like minor health centers. You will not know the difference between major and minor health centers, apart from the name. Mr. is here. I'm not sure whether there is any ambulance in that place. And it's very, very far from other areas. So that is something that we need to look at. Somebody has already said, if there are areas that do not need the ambulance, it's better to take it to other places that actually need it. And Fodekunda is one such area. Not that it is my place. Honorable Speaker, these ambulances are very important. As I said, if you are in such places and a lady goes into labor, they put the person on a horse cart, sometimes on a donkey cart. Before the person gets to the right place, so many things happen there, you can imagine. So these community ambulances are very, very, very important. And we must make sure that we pass this. Honorable Speaker, there is a difference between the contingency captured in this budget and the contingency fund. The contingency fund is separate. We have to establish that and put money there for any contingency that may come. This one is just put in the centralized services for any foreseen, it's just meant for the budget, but it's different from the fund itself. So if it happens, well, the money is spent. If it does not happen, then the money will not be spent. Now, when we come to the IEC, as somebody said, there are mixed messages. When we met the Minister of Finance, when we were scrutinizing the IEC bill, the election bill, the Minister informed us that the IEC diaspora voting registration is not captured in the Appropriation Act. It's not captured there. That's the information that he gave us. And promised that when he comes to the SAP, he'll put money there for that. That's when we discussed. But when we met the IEC, what they told us is that money is not their problem, just like our honorable nominated member Yakumba said. They said it's not money. That is not their problem. They have money to do it. But their problem is the legality of doing it. One major problem they said, they highlighted, is they cannot carry all these ballot boxes to everywhere abroad. That is one of the major concerns. That because of token, that type of thing, they need an amendment to do that. That's one of the major reasons why they said they could not conduct elections abroad at this moment. But they gave us a list of the activities they have done to the extent of proposing the amendment or the amendments and gave it to the Ministry of Justice for onward transmission to this assembly. And that is more than 6 months ago. But they are saying still now, the Ministry of Justice has not brought that before us. And it is this legal blockage or tussle or difficulty, challenge. That's why they could not conduct this registration. And as he said also, that this constituency thing, they want some clarification on that. But we told them, everyone in Europe, everywhere, they are coming from somewhere in a constituency. So that's not an issue. But the token one is something that needs to be looked at. So these are some of the issues that they raise. And we promise that we are proposing for continuous registration, so that even after the bill becomes an act, chance will still be there, time will still be there for them to go and do the registration. By that time, we would have made it both token and ballot paper. So there will be no issue when it comes to that. So I thought that the government is taking that serious. I expect that bill to also be given a certificate of urgency, but it's not giving the certificate of urgency. Otherwise, if we had passed that, then they would not have any problem, they said. But they said money is not their problem. That's what they told us. And I intend to believe that because they have not put anything here that shows that they have money problem. That's what they say. Honorable Speaker, we have approved a NAMS loan scheme of some millions, and the court has dismissed that. So what do we do with that amount? Can't we take that to the higher education? It's some kind of environment. Buy it to higher education and solve their problem. Add it to this 50, and then you have more than 100 million to solve their problem. That's my suggestion. On that note, I thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Nominated Member Majanko.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor to add my voice to the previous speakers since in the morning, Honorable Speaker. Please, it's getting to midnight now. Mr. Speaker, I must first of all thank the Honorable Minister of Finance for bringing this Honorable SAB, it is timely, Honorable Speaker. As you know, it involves activities that are urgently needed to be solved. Urgently needed to be solved. This is why, since in the morning, Honorable Speaker, I was listening to a member for Serekunda, Honorable Khalifa Saleh. In fact, I'm not intending to speak after when he speak. When he spoke, I was so satisfied the way even the finance minister himself cannot speak more than what he has said, because he has highlighted everything. Everything. There's no point that he did not touch. To show the justification of this SAB, Honorable Speaker. If one does not want to be otherwise to see the SAB in other angle, otherwise, member for Serekunda has shown everything. Nobody can speak here than what he has said, because he speaks his mind. As a true and a honest and experienced parliamentarian addressing the National Assembly. This is what we expect from every member representing the people of this nation. There's nothing here, item here, more urgent than the other. These are all important. I'm not seeing the rationale behind certain comments made by certain members. But you know, it's a divergent view. But otherwise, deep down, you can say something, but deep down, you yourself know that what I've said definitely does not commensurate with what is actually on the ground. Mr. Speaker, I cannot just understand when some members will mention certain items that are not urgent. Like you talk about the UN peacekeeping. I was a security personnel. Just from school, I joined the security personnel. I know what a security is. At least I have a clue of idea about security. I serve as an intelligent from my training school. And we all know the set of conditions in this country. Just 2-3 months ago, everybody said killing was rampant, breaking and all kinds of crimes. Even yesterday, I heard from the radio announcing that Gorgim Boop, I don't know, Operation No Compromise, I don't know, crime something is reinstated, redeploy again. Or anti-crime. You see, because of the importance of this SAB, so that the security forces, more attention should be focused on them. Both the general duty and the armed forces. The armed forces. Honorable Speaker, I could remember in 1993, I was crying in Parliament. When I was in Parliament in 1993, I was all the time crying, saying that the government should put attention to the security forces. They should be motivated. I've been saying it. I was the member of Parliament Shadow Minister for Ministry of Interior. I was all the time crying because I was citing something. Then, government was not giving attention to the security forces. But now when this peacekeeping force came into being in force, we all know how many Gambians benefited. Even when you are not a soldier, but you have a family that you benefited. Not only the pensioners, what they get from there, it only stopped to their doorstep. But no, what they belong to families who have realized benefits from what their relatives got from Darfur, peacekeeping. So if one can stand here, you say, peacekeeping is not a priority. I don't know I don't know what word I would say to describe that individual, that member of the National Assembly. Without you are sleeping 24/7. Without security, you know, you have people who can strangle you and take what you have. You cannot do nothing. But because of the security, that is why certain actions are not, certain people are moving 24/7 as how they like. That's why we are saying we have peace. Without security, can we have peace? If you are to motivate first, these are the sectors that should be given more attention first. It's very fundamental. That's why we have to be very careful. All these areas are, as the member for Serekunda has said, all these areas are as important. No area is important than what? It's every area. So we have to be mindful. This has nothing to do with politics. This has, let's hit the nail on the head. This has no political implication. It is there for a purpose. And we should be bound duty to see that understand those purposes are complemented, addressed. We should not associate politics to this document, this SAP. We should not. If you do it, you as an individual are not fair to your electorate. Because when you talk about the road network, you talk about the city of Banjul, you say that's not a priority. The city of Banjul today, whose Gambian will come to Banjul, you said, what I have seen how Banjul is looking like compared to even the colonial days. This is the kind we never had since the memorial. You said that's not a priority. You go to Kalembus, that's a member of Same here. When the construction of Lamenko to Pasamas, we all know, understand, at that time, Kalembus or Bus Kaleng Road, we know how it is. If one can say that's not a priority, to settle those areas, the contractor, Yorubaol, Basse Yorubaol, I don't know. You said that's not a priority? The electorate in that place, they have members of parliament here. They have members from Wuli and Sandu. Maybe those who are saying that it's not a priority, they don't even know that area. If you are, that's why when I go there now, I remember, compared to, then in the First Republic, you come to the Second Republic, and now up to even this transitional government. Before that place is meant, we all know how it takes you 2 hours from Basse before you get to Yoruba. Kalembus, we know the member for Sami is here. We all know how that place is. But today, when you go there, it looks like you are living in London. Yes. It will become a history. So if that is the case, Honorable Speaker, I think, as I said before, I was not intending to speak. But, however, I must, as a member of the Coalition 2016, a stakeholder, I cannot just come a document of this kind without throwing one or two words. Sorry, but otherwise, Honorable Member for Serekunda has said everything. All areas of that are important. You come to justice, judiciary, it's important. A magistrate in a taxi with a criminal moving from point A to point B. You said that's not a priority. A magistrate, you convicted a prisoner. You join a taxi with his relatives. Anything can happen to you. What a risk is that? What a risk is that? So please, I urge all honorable members, it's Gambia. We are not dealing with Senegal, Sierra Leone, or Nigeria, but we are dealing with Gambia. We are dealing with our own people. We are here to represent them, to take care of their welfare without no segregation. All constituencies are important. No one constituency is important than the other. Let's not attach politics to this document. Let's be very mindful. The country is at a stage that we have to be very mindful. We have to be very careful. When issues come to this August House, Honorable Speaker, we should be very, very honest to ourselves. As we have taken oath, we are voted in here by the electorate. So when we come to this house, we have to be honest. We have to fulfill what we opted for. Honorable Speaker, and I'm telling you, we have to be very careful about students, higher education. I'm asking Honorable Minister, what is behind? Bring everything. Bring everything. No area should be there to take care of the students. Because I'm a politician. I know what students' action is. I know what the security action is. We have to be very careful before we see ourselves in a vandalism. If they make noise here, just 2 weeks ago, about 2 weeks now, 1 or 2 weeks ago, war betide, we are lucky. If these people come out in the street, that's another noise. Please, let one not be behind to see that, praying that for that to happen. You want to attach that to the politics, honestly, you are making a mistake. You will never know whose life is going to lost there. Yourself or your child or my child. Let's be very mindful, let's be honest to Gambians, our electors. Honorable Speaker, that's the few words that I have to throw my way to the previous speakers. On that note, I beg to move.
Thank you, Honorable Nominated Member. Honorable Member for Kiang East.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. I'm the last person to speak, and when I speak, nobody speaks. Yes. Okay. A lot of pertinent issues have been raised here. A lot of relevant questions asked. However, Honorable Speaker, since I'm the last speaker, I cannot avoid repeating some of the things that have already been mentioned. but I will try as much as possible to limit myself to one or two areas which are really very close to my heart. I am going to speak on the higher education and basic education sectors because I am almost always involved in their activities. Supplementary appropriation bill that is under discussion, two important things we must not lose sight of. These are urgency and importance, the priority that is attached to each of these. To be quite honest,